Today on the show, you and I discuss tax day and what it's good for. There's one thing that you should do besides paying your taxes on tax day, and we'll get into that next.
Can't you see? Everyone! They're here already! You're next!
Let's go!
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born!
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
You know, it is that day of the year. You, me, all of us, we've all had some sort of conversation that went a little bit like the one I had today. Talked to a buddy of mine. I was like, how you doing? He's like, not too good. Not too good at all, actually. I was like, oh, really? Why? He was like, well, I'm off to my tax guy's office to write Uncle Scam the biggest check I have ever written Uncle Scam. I was like, oh, really? And this is a guy who, a couple weeks ago when we were talking about taxes, was like, I thought the orange one's tax cuts were supposed to put more money in our pocket, but it's not doing that for me. And I was a little confused because the orange one's tax cuts actually have put a couple more shekels into my pocket. And for that, I'm kind of appreciative just of the shekels. And I was like, well, how did that work out? Because everybody else I've talked to about this is doing just slightly better ever since the tax reform a little while back. Not much, nothing to really write home about, but a little bit better. How are you paying more? And he was like, actually, as it turns out, it's my fault. I was like, why is that? He's like, well, I'm self-employed. I was like, right, I knew that. And he's like, I had a better year this year than I did in past years, but I did not increase my estimated tax contributions. Meaning, every single month or every single quarter or however often he decides to do it, he pays money into taxes, sends a check to Uncle Sam, to the IRS. And he was like, I started making more money, but I didn't adjust the amount of money I was sending him in every single month. And, well, now I owe a bit, a sizable chunk, because I had a better year than I thought I had. I was like, oh, really? He was like, yeah. Actually, the tax cuts didn't hurt. Overall, I think I wound up paying a little less than I would have in previous years. But I was like, you send him money every single month? He's like, every single month. I was like, why do you do that? He's like, so I don't get a nasty shock at the end of the year. I was like, why? He was like, well, that way you don't think about it as much. That way you're budgeting for it. I was like, why? Is it legal now? See, I used to be self-employed. When you're a musician, you're self-employed. You're an entrepreneur when you're a guy or girl in a rock band, which I was for the first chunk of my, note the sarcastic air quotes around this word, career. So every single year, I had to write a check to Uncle Sam right around today, right around April 15th. And it was a large, painful check every single time. And they're like, we would like for you to make monthly contributions or quarterly contributions. I was like, am I legally obliged to? And they're like, no, but we would like you to. The IRS looks favorably upon that. I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to keep that money in my bank, making whatever paltry amount of interest I can make off of it. I don't see any reason why I should give it to you a second sooner than I have to. If I'm not legally obligated to, then I'm not gonna. I said that to my friend. He was like, well, I kind of like to hide it from myself. When I had a job, I got taxed at source and it seemed less stressful. I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what they want you to think. It'll be less stressful for you if you just give them your hard-earned money. Yeah, here's the thing. You don't have to do that. And it's good not to do that. And if you are any kind of independent entrepreneurial type that has to pay your own taxes, unless some law has changed that I don't know about, I would advise you not to do that for a couple of important reasons. First and foremost, all you are doing is giving the government an interest-free loan. Second of all, do they really deserve that? Are you that happy with their performance that you feel like cutting them a deal that you wouldn't cut your friends, family, relatives, and loved ones? I know I wouldn't. But AD, my friend said to me, and I hear you say, it's a little tough writing that check every single month. But it's especially tough writing a big check at the end of the year. Why would you want to put yourself through that? I was like, oh no, I knew how much to set aside every single month. That went straight into a savings account. Sometimes that went into something that was short-term and locked up, like a certificate of deposit. But I knew how much I had to put aside, and I put that aside. And they're like, wasn't it awful to write that big check at the end of the year? I was like, yeah, it was awful. They're like, why did you do it? I was like, to remind me to stay angry, to remind me to hold my politicians accountable, to remind me of the fact that I work really hard for this money, and I don't think they work nearly as hard for it. To remind me of the fact that government, and we talk about this all the time. Government is the only job I can think of where you are not responsible to the person that cuts your check. And I know you're supposed to be a public servant and all that sort of stuff, but man, my boss wants to see me in their office. Guess where I'm going to be? In their office. Why? Because they're responsible for my bread and butter. They're responsible for my ability to pay rent and bills and mortgages and things of that nature. They're responsible for my ability to feed and clothe myself. They're my livelihood. And when the person responsible for my livelihood wants to see me, guess what? They get to see me. I'll be up there quick, smart, being polite and attentive. That's how it's supposed to go with you and the person who cuts a check. Government is the only industry I can think of where you cut the check, whether you like it or not, whether you find their performance to be satisfactory. You're not really capable of disciplining them. You're not capable of giving them a quarterly review and deciding whether or not they get a raise. No. You pay them, yet you have to ask for permission for an audience with them. How on earth does that make sense? Answer, it does not. In no way, shape, or form does that make sense. And I'm not a freaking anarchist. I know we need government. I know that there is infrastructure that needs taken care of. I know taxes are a part of what makes the world go round and America go round. But the balance of liability and responsibility between us and those who we pay with our blood, sweat, and tears every single day, month, year, week, and minute that we are working is wrong, and it needs to be readdressed. So no, don't make quarterly contributions if you're not legally obligated to. Don't make weekly, yearly, monthly contributions unless you're legally obligated to. Hold on to every last red cent until you have to pay it. As a reminder to be angry and to hold people accountable on a day like today.
Real radio. 104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
You know, I was talking to the same friend about taxes, the one that we were discussing before, the one who, well, did a little bit better this year as a self-employed entrepreneur than he did the year before, so he was going to have to go write a check because he didn't make large enough monthly or quarterly contributions. And I was like, why would you do that? Why would you give them money when you don't have to? Give it to them at the end of the year. One big lump sum. Remind yourself to be angry and to hold those people accountable. I don't care which side of the political fence you fall down on. You pay all of their salaries. So why not? Why not? And he was like, you know, I really miss it. I really miss being an employee. I used to be an employee and I used to get taxed at source. And that just seemed like an easier way to go through life. And I'd get a check back every April. I was like, no check back in April. When you've got to go to human resources, or when you've got to go to your, Workday account or whatever the hell it is, and you're setting up your tax and your withholdings and things of that nature, talk to a tax pro. Say, hey, what do I have to do? What boxes do I have to check? What numbers do I have to fill out? What do I have to do to where I only owe the IRS $1 come mid-April. The goal should be to owe the IRS $1. And there is a reason for this. And it goes back to what we were saying about that interest-free loan. Do you really feel that Uncle Scam deserves an interest-free loan from you? Because I do not. And this is an amazing thing because it's a unifying bipartisan issue. Because guess what? Doesn't matter how you vote. Your taxes pay everyone and everything in the government. Just because you voted Republican doesn't mean your tax money goes exclusively to pay Republican salaries. And vice versa for Democrats. This is a bipartisan issue that should keep you outraged all the time. And you should not give the government a penny more than you have to. You should try and owe them $1 in April. Talk to your HR folks. Talk to your tax people. Talk to whoever it is you got to talk to set that game up so that you don't get that money at the end of the year. And a lot of people, like my friend said, well, it's cool getting a check at the end of the year. Maybe you buy a TV. Maybe you go on vacation. Maybe you get a couple grand back. Maybe you get $500 back. But it's always nice to have that little windfall. No, it's not nice to have that little windfall. That was yours to begin with. That was the government taking something that you earned and saying you don't get it for a year. It's weird. The Pavlovian reward system that taxes and taxation in this country take advantage of. Oh, you're going to get a refund. That's got to be fantastic. You can buy stuff. Retail stores set up sales around refunds. Shouldn't have a refund. You shouldn't be giving the government a penny more than you owe them. You want that money in your pocket from the get-go. Like I said, when you get a refund, it just means you gave the government an interest-free loan that if you're like me, you feel they don't deserve. And what a wonderful unifying thing this could be. What a wonderful unifying thing this could be. Hey, we should all be angry because the government took thousands of our dollars. The government took thousands of our dollars and didn't give it back to us for a year. That could have been in a bank account somewhere earning interest. That could have paid for my kids' shoes. That could have paid for all manner of things that it wasn't paying for because the government kept it locked up until they saw fit on April 15th to give it back to us, or January 1st, or whenever it is you do that sort of thing. And if you don't believe me, well, here's the thing. Americans will pay $3.4 trillion in federal taxes and $1.8 trillion in state and local taxes for a total bill of over $5.2 trillion. You know what that is? That is 29% of the nation's income. This is what you spend on taxes. America collectively spends more on taxes than they do on food, clothing, and housing combined. Those things that you want to be able to do. Put a roof over your head. Put a shirt on your back. Feed your family. You spend more on what you give to government that, let's be real here, doesn't put a big smile on our face. I don't care which side of the political fence you're on. I can't think of anyone who's like, you know what? Government's great. They deserve this. Good for them. Tax rates were cut across all 7 of the income brackets. The top marginal rate decreased from 39.6 to 37. The marginal rate for a single earner making $50,000 dropped from 25 to 22, while the rate for a married couple with $75,000 of income declined from 15 to 12%. There's also a bigger standard deduction for married joint filers. The deduction is $24,000 for single filers and is $12,000. The deduction is $24,000, and for single filers, it's $12,000 rather. The new larger deduction takes the place of the personal exemption and simplified tax filing. About 9 in 10 taxpayers will simply claim the new standard deduction rather than itemize their taxes. But like I said, The most sobering figure in all of this is the fact that government collected $3.4 trillion in federal taxes in 2018 and $1.8 trillion in state and local taxes for a total bill of $5.2 trillion, or 29% of the nation's income. Americans will collectively spend more on taxes in 2019 than they will on food, clothing, and housing combined. Now, like I said, I'm not some cockeyed anarchist that thinks the whole system should burn. I'm aware that we need to pay taxes. I get it. I understand it. And as someone who makes a reasonable chunk of his income in the state of California, which is so taxed out the yin-yang, I've started to look at things a little bit differently. Are we going to get magical tax cuts that put a significant amount of money into our pocket? Let's be real here. What happened over the last year is probably about as good as it's ever going to get, and as good as we'll see in quite a long time. And I look at what other countries get out of their taxes and say, we're paying significantly higher taxes. Like, case in point, I always look at where, because it's most familiar to me. I look at what I was looking at a little while ago with regard to England, where I grew up. I look at England, and then I look at taxes that I had to pay on my earnings in the state of California. And I go, oh, damn. I'm paying the same amount of tax. I'm getting the same amount of money taken out of my paycheck in California as I would have been if I was still living in England. Now, here's the thing. In England, you get socialized medicine. Now, you can argue for and against socialized medicine, but the bottom line is paying the same and getting a lot less, in California anyway, and in other parts of America, than you would if you were in England. And, you could purchase additional health insurance and go private and all the above, but bottom line is, you get the flu, you get some sort of something that needs antibiotics, guess what they cost you? £2.50. That's it. That's what you get for paying about the same amount of taxes in a different country as you do in America. You lose your home, you lose your job, and your ability to pay rent. Well, they have something called a housing benefit there that will help you live in the same place so you don't lose your home and hurt the economy that way if you are between jobs. They're going to do what it takes to help keep you afloat in England because that's what they've decided is important. And again, I'm not waving the flag for socialism. I'm just holding up a side-by-side comparison of parts of America paying the same amount of tax as the rest of the world does, getting significantly more for it, having the burden of things like health insurance removed from them. Here, somebody breaks their leg, they can't go to work, they need a GoFundMe, they've got to figure it out. I've had numerous friends that are veterans that have had to crowdfund their cancer recoveries, and that's not okay. In England, it's a very different scenario for the same amount of tax. So when I tell you that you should try and hold on to every last penny for as long as you can and remember to stay angry when you pay Uncle Scam, that's why. We get way less than we should. And our politicians are not being held accountable. And that's our fault.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
You know what else chaps my freaking hide about taxes, besides all the things that we've been talking about recently? I did it wrong. I actually got money back on my taxes. I zigged when I should have zagged. I didn't pay full attention to withholdings and things of that nature. And, well, as it turns out, I had a reasonable chunk of change coming to me. Not life-changing money, but certainly an amount of money that would help to buy groceries for a couple of months. Like I said, the goal is to owe Uncle Sam $1 every April. That's what the goal is. And as it turns out, I got a little wrong. I got a little ass backwards because Uncle Sam owes me some dollars. Here's the thing, though. The humanity of the situation. I don't get those dollars right away. No. Got a letter. Maybe you got one of these. I hear a lot of people have gotten these recently. Hey, there's been increased incidences of identity theft. Oh, what? You mean because you're doing this inefficiently? Because you can't be trusted to safeguard our information? Oh, interesting. You mean a bunch of petty criminals have got the jump on you? I thought we were paying all this tax money to make you be able to pay for something that was good. Okay, all right, well, fine. There's been increased incidences of identity theft, and there's been increased incidences of kind of schnoogling with people's tax returns in a criminal sense. So what do you need from me? We need you to prove that you are who you are because you use a third party. I have a tax person that I use to do my taxes. And it was like, we need to, This letter said, we need you to confirm who you are. Why? Well, because you use this third party. What, you mean the same third party that I've been using for the last 7 years? Right, yeah. We need you to get on the phone and confirm who you are. And you're going to need to have records from the last 2 years on hand because, well, we've discovered we can't be trusted with your money. You know, that interest-free loan that you gave us for a year? We're not that great at handling it and keeping criminals' filthy mitts off of it, so we're going to need you to confirm who you are. You're going to have records from the past couple of years. It will take a long time. Much of that time will be spent sitting on hold. I mean, that's not what they said, but that's what they should have said because that's exactly what happened. And, you know, it being the digital age and me being a man of convenience, I was like, I'm just going to have them direct deposit that into the bank account. Sure, fine, why not? Been doing that for a while now. Always seems to work out. Here's the thing. After you've sat on hold for the better part of a business day, we have managed to confirm, after you dug through all your records to dig up several tax returns, that you are who you said you are, and we will be sending you your money. Well, gosh, I mean, I was supposed to get it several weeks ago. I mean, that's the time frame that I usually get it in. I did my taxes early to avoid disappointment and delay. So when am I going to get it? Well, sometime in the next 9 weeks. 9 weeks? That seems like a long time. But at least I'll have the convenience of it being direct deposited, right? Well, I actually know about that. We're going to send you a paper check in the mail. But that's really inconvenient because I'm moving. Oh, really? Well, if it gets sent back to us, we'll know what happened. No, if it gets sent back to you, you know what happened. Pay me my freaking money. You people are crap at what you do for a living. I can't believe that I fund such incompetence with my blood, sweat, and tears. Pay me my money now. But you can't because it's the federal government. It's the IRS. A bunch of jackbooted, inept thugs is what they are. Look, maybe I've been overcomplicating this. Maybe I've been overcomplicating it because I've been pouring my own personal baggage into the situation, and that's clouded my emotions and made me get a little bit more in depth than I need to be. Let's go to the great comedian Tim Slagle for a reminder of what taxation really is as seen through the eyes of a child.
Folks, if you have kids, you got to teach those kids about taxes. The best time you can do this is Halloween. They're going to be bringing home a nice big bag of what should be take-home candy. This Halloween, just greet that little tyke at the door. Hey, that's a nice big bag of candy you got there, Harry Potter. First of all, we have to take away this much to ensure you'll have candy in your old age. You're going to see it in 50, 60 years. I tell you what, we'll just put that right up here. We won't touch it till then. I got to level with you, man. Grandpa's going to eat all that.
You know, it's interesting. It usually tends to be people like comedians, people like musicians, people like artists, people who are technically self-employed. A lot of people forget about that. If you are a comedian, you are an entrepreneur building your business. You are a one-man army. A comedian gets up on stage and wins or loses on their own merits. Maybe they pay a commission to a booking agent or something of that nature. But for the most part, every single dollar that winds up in their wallet, they have to report to Uncle Sam, and they have to give over a certain amount of it. So folks like comedians are intrinsically aware of what taxation means and what taxation is, and that's probably why they have such a big problem with it, as did the great Chris Rock.
Used to work making minimum wage, came up to about $200 a week, and then they would take out $50 in taxes. That's a lot of money if you only make $200 a week, man. That's like kicking Wednesday and Thursday in the okay? $50 a week in taxes, man. What do I get for my tax money? Get all the free street light in the world. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, give everybody a candle and give my $50 back. I hate taxes. I hate checks. I hate the fact they put two amounts of money on your check. You know what I mean? It's like, this the money you bust your ass all week for, and this is what you're gonna get. Social Security. They should ask you if you want to take that. A man should come to you and say, dude, would you like us to save money for you when you get old? Nah, I want to spend it now. You don't get the money till you're like 65. Meanwhile, the average black man dies at like 42.
So today is, of course, tax day. You and I have been discussing this all day long. And you know this, I know this. You would think that we all know this. But I guarantee you, someone who just started listening to the show went, oh my God, it's tax day. They broke out a bunch of F-bombs and did a speedy U-turn to see if their local H&R Block was still open. It is not. And here's the thing. As if tax day wasn't bad enough already. Here's an extra kick in the groin. New study found that it's also the top day for robocalls. Yeah. Top day for robocalls for the year. The study looked at more than 1 billion phone calls from last year and found that tax day had the most scam robocalls. 43% of Americans got one this day last year, which is an insanely high number. Scammers like today because everyone's on edge and not sure if they did their taxes properly. So you're slightly more susceptible to someone posing as the IRS asking for personal information, your social security number, and things of that nature. Yeah. Study also found that April is the worst month for robocalls in general because people are all bent out of shape about taxes. The government has instilled some paranoia in you, and for that reason, you are more susceptible as prey to scam artists, which is humongously unfortunate. Here's Matt Fulcheron to talk a little bit more about the irony of tax day falling in April.
Got my taxes done this year. I'm living my life. Y'all can't stop me. Why are you trying to stop me from doing my taxes, guy in the fourth row? Tax guy called me up. He's like, I got an appointment for you on April 4th at 4 o'clock. And I was like, cool. And April's the fourth month of the year. So he's like, look at that. We're meeting at 4/4 at 4. And I was like, cool. And he's like, great. So I'll see you on all fours. And I was like,
So there it is. I think we can finish up on taxes right about now, having realized that tax day is a day that you spend on all fours, so to speak. A reminder that tax day is not a day to rejoice for that refund that you got. It's not a refund. It's a reminder that you loaned the government interest-free money that could have been sitting in your account for the last 12 months doing something useful, or perhaps buying things that you want, or that you need, or that your family wants or needs. Tax day is nothing but a reminder to hold your inefficient government officials accountable. That's what tax day is all about. You know who I'm guessing is pretty adept at navigating the world of taxes, being the millionaire that he is? Bernie Sanders. Yeah. Bernie Sanders recently admitted to being a millionaire mostly because of his best-selling book. Here's the thing, though. Bernie Sanders, being a millionaire, as it turns out, that might be his undoing. We talked about this a little bit on the show the other day, but I was kind of befuddled and blown away to observe some of the clapback that the Bern has been experiencing since he admitted that he wrote a book that did rather well. What exactly is going on with Bernie Sanders? We'll get into it next.
You walk these streets most every day. You waiting to get washed away. Radio. 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me.
So, you know, if I ever get a chance to talk to somebody who is successful about that level of success that they've had, I'm curious. I want to lean in. I want to learn more. I feel as though they perhaps know some stuff I don't know that I probably should. I view being in the presence of people that have done more than me, made more of their life than me. And sometimes that can include having more dollars in the bank account than me as a learning experience. Such is not the case with Bernie Sanders, not with me, but with people that were previously staunch Bernie Sanders supporters. It's an interesting one. The run-up to the 2020 election is, well, on the left. Grab some popcorn and sit back and watch what happens. Because, first and foremost, literally everyone and their dog has decided that they were going to be the Democratic nominee for president of these United States of America and leader of the free world. And it's getting nasty. And it's getting nasty early. Beto O'Rourke, who was supposed to be, well, the president. It was pretty much guaranteed the day he lost to Ted Cruz that he would be the president. Good, he lost. Now he can run for president. Beto for president, Beto 2020. The moment he lost, that was the rallying cry. No, hold on a second. No. Beto's too male, too white, too privileged, too wealthy to be the Democratic nominee for president. That's no good. All of a sudden, people on his own side started saying he's too wishy-washy. He goes off on these nonsensical, soul-searching journeys that are the luxurious privilege of people who are luxuriously privileged. Beto, don't think so. Hell no, not Beto, or whatever the hell the rallying cry of the left was when they said he was too male, too white, and too privileged. And, well, another standard bearer of the left, Bernie Sanders. Man, he is, he's looking at his opportunity to be president of these United States of America go up in a puff of money. Yeah. As it turns out, being successful, having written a best-selling book, not good for business in 2019. Barack Obama had that book, The Audacity of Hope, and it was basically something that everybody went out and bought. And it was essentially, well, he stood on the millions of volumes of that book that were sold to give him a bit of a leg up when it came to running for president. Nobody held it against him that he made ass tons of cash off of a best-selling book. Bernie's got to be going, wait, what? Oh, man. You mean we're not allowed to have best-selling books now? Oh, what the hell, man? What the hell? Yeah. There's this group, Think Progress, and they have released this new video attacking Bernie Sanders for admitting now that he's a millionaire. The video put out by the folks over at Think Progress is called Bernie's Millionaire Problem. And it notes that Bernie Sanders has been railing against millionaires and billionaires for several years now, and showed multiple clips of Sanders referencing them. The video shows how Sanders slightly tweaked his rhetoric following his 2016 presidential run when his book royalties made him a millionaire. Bernie Sanders wrote a best-selling book. He's now a millionaire because of it. And initially, he decided that he was going to get out in front of it. When people said, you got to reveal your tax returns, it's the patriotic thing to do, he was like, I'm just telling you now, I'm a millionaire. You could be a millionaire too if you had a best-selling book. And all of a sudden, that is not cool. By the way, politicians having best-selling books, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. Because it's basically like getting free money to go promote yourself and then doing private business with that. You can head out on the campaign trail. using money that has been given to you by people that believe that you're a servant of the public. And I'm not talking specifically about Bernie Sanders. I'm talking about politicians in general. You can hit out on the campaign trail, getting millions upon millions of dollars of advertising for yourself. You can start a cult of personality that make enough of the population go, man, I would like to know more about that individual. Oh, what? They wrote a book? I'm going to go out and buy that. You see where that kind of feels disingenuous and like you're bilking the system? If you go, hey, I need some campaign finance because I want to be the person that represents you at a government level, and people dish over their dollars, and you go on TV and there's all sorts of free coverage courtesy of news organizations that are, at least in theory, obligated to inform the public, you are raising your star significantly. And then if you go, I'm out of this race, but I'm just going to stay in it so I can look principled because I got a book to hawk. It's amazing. It's amazing how they turn out those weighty volumes so quickly after a failed presidential run or a failed run at being whatever the hell it is. It's almost like they had it ready to go from the get. It's almost like the goal is sort of to lose so that you can then hawk your book or whatever it is. Surely they wouldn't. Anyways, Bernie Sanders had a book. Our Revolution was released in November 2016, making him a millionaire. Instead of attacking millionaires and billionaires, this video shows him only going after billionaires and multimillionaires in one case, because he's a millionaire now. And Bernie is responding by saying these liberal think tanks are undermining Democrats' chance of taking back the White House in 2020 by using its resource to smear him and other contenders pushing progressive policies. If you get to a point where Bernie Sanders, a man who trots out the phrase democratic socialism, a phrase that has the word socialism in it on a regular basis, if you get a guy that talks about running on a socialist platform in America saying, hey, settle down now. Your policies are a little too progressive. It just points to a very unhealthy level of extremism. And that exists on the left and right, but it's that much more prevalent on the left because it's an all-out slugfest trying to figure out who's going to snag that nomination. And if you've made too much money, or you're too white, or too male, or perceived as being too privileged, well, there's enough of a faction on the left that just wants to tear you the hell down. Anyways, it's interesting stuff. I'm here for the show. I'm popping some popcorn. I think it's sort of a fascinating point that we've arrived at in American history, and I'm guessing if you and I have been hanging out for a little while, you do as well. Jody Enda, the editor-in-chief of Think Progress, said that political leaders should not be able to muzzle or stop coverage that they consider critical, and you know what? That's right. That's true. But at the same time, wouldn't it be nice if people that thought differently could find a way of getting along and getting on the same page? I know you think that, because that's what we do every single day. And for that, I thank you. Have an awesome one.